Excellent. And we can get started. Okay, cool. So my name is Jessica Levesque. I am the executive director at C4, and we are here with our Cryptocurrency Essentials Committee leader. Hi, Josh. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
Yes, thank you. So, okay, today we're going to be talking about digital sovereignty, and Josh is a really humble person. So sorry to put you on for this, Josh, because I know that I know that you're rather humble. So I try not to embarrass you too much, but you guys, Josh wrote an incredible book, Digital Sovereignty: Protecting Your Crypto Assets Against Common Threats. And here, oh, you say something so you pop up on the screen. Otherwise, it's just going to be me.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. So I wrote Digital Sovereignty, Protecting Your Crypto Assets Against Common Threats. It's a open source book all about keeping your digital assets safe, and really about understanding the security patterns and threat patterns so that you can build a plan for your own needs. And
Yeah.
Jess is very kind to share that and help me
Well,
get this
Josh,
out there.
if it wasn't a good book, I would not have you on C4 talking about it for sure. So you can believe that I think it's a great book. And I think it's really important for people to have access to resources that talk about how to protect their crypto. And one of the things I love that you did with this is you made it open source so anybody can read the book. You can buy it if you want the hard copy of it, which I think is awesome. And then also you've made it available for people who can't afford it but need to protect their crypto assets. Why'd you do that? Like, what was the reasoning?
Well, I'm really inspired by people like Andreas M. Antonopoulos and just the open source community in general as a software engineer and security educator. I'm a strong believer that knowledge should be open, accessible, and free for people. So you can buy the paperback, you can buy the ebook if you want to support this kind of knowledge and have it in that nice, easily accessible form, or you can download and read the individual chapters for free on GitHub. The entire book's open source, and I want anybody to have access to the knowledge and be able to use it and share it.
Yeah, I love that you did that, Josh. Obviously, at C4, we believe in sharing free material. That's why we're doing this. And for those who learn better with a video audio component, we're going to be doing this. And I know also you're working on an audio book for it, right?
Yeah, there's an audiobook in the works, hopefully released within the next couple months. It's coming along very well. It's just finding the time around all my other activities and work. So, just
Yeah.
like the book, it's a passion project and it's coming along.
Well, that is an interesting segue, or a good segue, I guess I should say, into how this is a volunteer position, being the chair for the CCE. And all of our committee members at C4 volunteer their time in order to support free education and to try to make the crypto industry more aware of exactly what they need to know to succeed, to be educated, to protect their assets, and to really walk the walk instead of just talking the talk, and often talking the talk incorrectly. So having trusted resources is super important, and why we want and are so lucky to have volunteers like Josh is because without them, it would just be a couple people deciding what the crypto community should learn about from C4. And we really believe in bringing people together to make sure that it's not just one person's opinion, but we've crowdsourced this info. So anyways, I appreciate you, Josh, and I'm excited to start talking about your book. So do you want to talk about why you wrote it just to start, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty?
Definitely. Well, thank you as well. It's always fun to work together and do this kind of stuff. So, my whole motivation for writing the book and getting this knowledge out there is after 6.5 years of being a tech educator in the space and learning about it for much longer, I've seen a lot of really interesting ways and really unfortunate ways that people have lost their crypto assets. Crypto is a very powerful technology in that it gives us the power to truly hold our own money by holding our own keys. But with that power means a greater uh, attack surface and a greater number of possible vulnerabilities, whether it's targeting individuals, targeting exchanges, uh, and causing people to lose their money to scams and hacks. So I wanted people to have sort of foundational knowledge um, on how to keep themselves safe. Not just sort of here's a list of things to do, but here's how to actually understand what's going on with the crypto security landscape and then build a plan for your own needs. Because all of us that are involved in this have different needs, different reasons for being involved in the space in the first place, and realistically different kind of threat models and different things that could potentially happen to us. So, giving people sort of the basic tools for how to build a plan, I think is really important.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, what's interesting about scams is that they keep evolving. And as they keep evolving, we need to be vigilant about it. But a lot of them are the same type of scams that have been going on for decades. And it's not just a crypto thing. I know people who've lost money or been scammed not for crypto or not using crypto. So it's definitely something that's widespread and problematic. And the thing I think to remember with this is no one is above being scammed. I've seen somebody who's incredibly technically savvy and is in crypto and is, you know, I would say somebody that I would very much so trust with crypto and privacy and all that. And I was in the car and they got a scam phone call and they didn't fall for it, but it took them, I'd say, a minute to realize it wasn't their bank calling. And this is somebody who knows what they're doing. So it can really happen to anybody. Luckily, if you have the tools we're going to go through, you're less likely to be scammed. So one of the things I really like about your book, Josh, is that you set up what some of the scenarios could look like and then how to mitigate those. So do you want to first talk about the types of wallets and then we'll get into the specific, because I think this is a good way to start, and then we'll get into the specifics of the scams.
Yeah. So when we think about sort of protecting our crypto assets against all of these different threats that are out there, a good place to start is just to think about the two broad types of wallets you're going to be interacting with in the space. First, there's your exchange accounts, and those are what we call custodial wallets. That means that you don't directly hold the private keys or the seed phrase for your assets. A trusted third party does that for you. So think like Coinbase, Binance, Gemini, all of these popular exchanges. And what's most important from a security perspective is securing these accounts is going to mirror a more traditional online account safety. So think passwords, 2FA, hardware keys, securing your email, going passwordless, all those types of things. Self-custody wallets are a little bit more interesting and sort of like the core of crypto ownership. And these are wallets where the software gives you a seed phrase or private keys, and you're solely responsible for protecting those keys and also maintaining backups for those keys in case you need them. With a self-custody wallet, there's no support line, there's no one to help other than getting this knowledge. So you need to be really aware of the threats and keep yourself safe.
Sorry, I had to unmute just so you could hear me. So when you were talking about this last night, I watched a Spider-Man movie, one of the original Tobey Maguire one from I don't even know how long ago. And in it, they say with great, you know, the line that we've all heard, with great power comes great responsibility. And I think that's very true with crypto. You have a lot of advantages to having crypto, but at the same time, that comes with a lot of responsibility. And so if you are in it or planning on getting in it, this is a really good way to go through the information to understand how to protect it. So Josh has, you know, lined this up for us. So here are the threats. If you want to just look on screen, we're going to go through each of these and I'll let Josh get into them specifically, but we're going to talk about different tactics for phishing, fake wallets and exchanges, so you can trust an exchange and still have an issue, giveaways and airdrops, investment scams, blackmail, recovery, malware scams and threats, and then cross-chain address swapping. So that's everything we're going to talk about today. These are the common threats and mitigation tactics. And I want to go through this quickly so that we've got time for Josh to really get into all of these different pieces. So those are the common threats that you need to be aware of, and let's get into it.
So first things first, most of these ones that we're going to talk about today, outside of some technical attacks like malware, are actually based in phishing or scam tactics, right? These are essentially ways in which a attacker, a malicious person, manipulates you into giving something that they want, whether that's giving them money directly, giving them access to an exchange account or a seed phrase, or some other mechanism so that they can get money out of you. And when we talk about phishing, I like to think about three broad categories of tactics that you're going to see that you can be aware of that might be a red flag for you to take a step back and think about what somebody is trying to get out of you. The first tactic that I see a lot is urgency, right? You get the phishing email that says, you must update your wallet within 24 hours or your assets will be locked. So put in your seed phrase here to validate your wallet. Now, if you're worried about losing access to your crypto coins, that might get you. In reality, that's an empty threat because you can't lock crypto assets in that way. But urgency gets you to act fast. And if you're acting fast, you're often not thinking about the consequences right away. The other tactic that I see very often is threats. So, kind of in a similar vein as the last example, right? I'm going to leak something embarrassing about you. I'm going to take your money. I'm going to lock your account. That gets you scared, which, much like urgency, often makes you do something without fully thinking it through. And then the last tactic that I think is also very common is rewards. So the idea that you're going to get a free airdrop, or you're going to get double your money, or you're going to get 50% return on investment. We as human beings, we like money. We like to get things. We especially like to get free things. I know I do. So enticing you with a reward that may actually be too good to be true is a tactic to be aware of.
Awesome, Josh. I mean, not awesome that people do that, but that was an awesome breakdown of the techniques that are used. These are pretty universal, I think. So, okay, let's get to some of these case studies and experiences you've had that you've mitigated and what you did.
Yeah. So a very common one in crypto is an email or a phone call or some type of engagement from a fake wallet or exchange. So this is an attacker pretending to be a service that is legitimate, something like Coinbase or Exodus Wallet or any number of popular wallets or exchanges in the space. And what they do is they try to get you to either give them access to your account, so by providing 2FA codes or your password, or they try to get you to give up your seed phrase and put it into illegitimate software or an illegitimate website. Especially with the seed phrase, if you accidentally give your seed to an attacker, they can instantly clean out all of your money. So it's unfortunately a really popular and easy target for scammers, because they basically get free money if they can accidentally trick you into giving it up. So, two examples that I've run into in real life is one, a person reached out to me because they received a phone call from someone pretending to be Coinbase. And I actually have gotten these phone calls and text messages myself as well. And they talk about a problem with your account, a suspicious transaction, something to get your attention, and then they ask you to contact a phone number that they give to you. And so what you're actually doing is basically calling into a fake call center, which will try to screen share with your device or convince you to give up things like 2FA codes so they can take over the account. The ultimate goal there for the attacker, regardless of how they do it, is to get you to give access to your account. So they can take any available funds that you have or any available deposits you have through like a bank account or credit card and clean that out to their own addresses. Once they send out to their own addresses, there's no way for you to claw that back. And so you'll be out of that money. Thankfully, in this particular scenario, we were able to lock the account and get that person back in before any funds were lost. But I know it was really scary for the folks involved and really unfortunate because the calls do look and sound pretty legitimate if you don't already sort of know that it's a scam. And then the Namecheap example.
Oh, real quick, I want to jump in
Oh
about the
yeah,
Coinbase one. Coinbase does everything they can, I think, to make sure that people aren't falling for it, but they're not involved in this at all. So I got a text last week from someone saying, "Is this legit?" It was saying something about, "Here's your Coinbase access number. Call this phone number." And use this reference number. And the person sent me a screenshot and said, "Is this legit?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I get these all the time from multiple exchanges. Ignore them. If you're worried about it, go in and we'll talk about mitigation in a minute, but it's definitely something a lot of people are experiencing. So if you haven't yet, you can kind of anticipate that it'll come at some point.
yeah. I mean, I get them, and my heart raises a little bit every time I get one anyway until I read through it from full and, recognize the pattern that this is a scam, right? They use common tactics like fear to get you to interact with them. It's scary and it can happen to anyone, especially if you're not on your toes and you're busy.
Yep, agreed. Okay, so what happened with Namecheap? What went on with this domain service?
I love this example, and this did make it into the book as well, because this is one that actually happened to me and almost got me. So, I use Namecheap for my domains currently, and I got an email from Namecheap saying you need to add funds for auto renewal or your domains are going to expire within a certain period of time. And I was busy and concerned about this because I want my websites to stay up. And something felt off to me because I was pretty sure I had preloaded, several years worth of domain renewal money into this account. So what I did was I went directly to namecheap.com and logged in the normal way instead of following the link in the email. And not really a surprise. My account was in good standing. I had no problem with my auto renewals. And this totally would have gotten me if I had clicked on the link in the email and logged in, because I couldn't remember exactly how my account was set up. I was concerned and I thought for a second that this was a legitimate problem. So, kind of using that tactic of going directly to the service in question instead of interacting with any phone numbers, emails, or links within the message saved me here.
Okay, so let's talk about how to avoid some of these things. What do we do? How do we mitigate?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, one of the great tactics you can use is if you get a message about a particular service or wallet, go directly to that wallet or service and log in the normal way. Don't call any phone numbers in the message. Don't use any emails in the message or any links within the message because those are usually what the scammer will use to get information out of you. And with modern tools, you can set up a fake login page that's very convincing with little effort. So being aware of that and following your normal flow can really save you if you're not sure if the message is legitimate or not.
Yeah, and they can spoof the number they're calling from too. So it could say Namecheap or Coinbase or Kraken, whatever on it, but it's not actually them, which is why just because it says it doesn't mean it actually is it. So do your own research to make sure that it's accurate. Okay, so what else, Josh, on this, or should we go to the next one?
The only small thing I wanted to add is you're exactly right, Jess. It is very easy for an attacker to do what we call spoofing for both phone numbers and emails. Basically, anybody can make the from field in an email be anything they want, and it doesn't actually indicate where it really came from. So I could create an email right now that says, did the emails from support at noreply.coinbase.com when it's actually coming from my email server. So don't just believe phone numbers and source emails. There are some ways that more technical folks can go in and look at the headers and see where they actually came from. But realistically, most folks won't want to do that. Just go directly to the website.
Awesome. That's good advice. Okay, so let's talk about giveaways, which is one of those things where it's easy to be tricked when you think you're getting something free and fun. And we've kind of been taught, I think, that free is good. So what does this look like, Josh?
Yeah, usually there's sort of two ways that this works. The first is that a scammer says if you send some money to this address, and they usually have a nice little QR code, we'll automatically double your money and send it back to you. So if you send 1 Bitcoin, you'll get 2 Bitcoin back. This is often done while impersonating trusted people, brands, exchanges, often high net worth individuals that seem like they would have money to give away. Uh, and all of that is essentially just to trick you into sending the attacker crypto, which can't be reversed. There's also some newer variations on this with smart contract based blockchains like Ethereum, where it'll ask you to just connect a wallet to participate in the giveaway. And what you'll actually end up doing under the hood is granting permission to a malicious smart contract that can clean out all the funds in your wallet. So never send anybody any money to get money back, right? If somebody really wants to give you crypto for free, they can just send it to an address that you provide. And be very, very careful what services you use Wallet Connect or smart contract signing with.
Okay. One thing you said that I just wanted to touch on is like if you're getting something from a different email or whatever, somebody being like, trust me, I'm, we get emails all the time saying, oh, I work for C4, or, they've seen something, they work for C4, or they've seen a certificate. So they think the person is capable of helping them with investment. First of all, if you go on our website, you'll see we don't do anything related to investing at all. We don't train people on how to invest. If you're a CBP or a CEP, that does not mean that you should take investment advice from, or that they should be giving investment advice at all. So it's rampant, this trying to copy trusted organizations. So be really careful.
Yeah, and this happens to really anybody that's involved in crypto too. I've been around the space for a long time, but I don't really have like that big of a following compared to, some other high profile crypto people. And I've seen myself impersonated in my own YouTube comments, which is weird.
Oh, yeah.
And, I'll just throw out there, I have over 100 videos, probably hours and hours and hours of content, including the book. And you'll never hear me talk about the price of Bitcoin. I don't really care. So if somebody pretending to be me is trying to get you to invest in something, it's not me. Please don't.
Yeah, I mean, same. It's we see ourselves being spoofed in our comments from ourselves and said stuff like that for sure. Okay, so let's do the airdrops.
Yeah, these are very similar, and I think I sort of talked about them in the last slide accidentally.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's right. Okay, let's go to the mitigation part from it.
yeah. So never send money to get money. In crypto, you're interacting with global decentralized ways to send money to people. So if anybody wants to send you free money, all they need is for you to send them your public address or a QR code of your address. You should never ever have to send any money or connect a wallet to a smart contract if somebody really wanted to give you money for free. And in general, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is, right? Somebody
Mhm.
sending tens of thousands of people free Bitcoin in high amounts seems really unlikely, because it
Yeah.
is unlikely. So don't fall for that juicy reward, even though it sounds like you're about to double your money, you're actually going to lose it.
Yep. Yep. I love that phrase. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And it's amazing how our brains can trick us into being like, this is so good, but like, what if it is? And we're able to rationalize away the unlikelihood of the situation to with that false sense of hope. All right, investment scams.
So these ones can be really interesting, sophisticated, long running, and pretty heartbreaking actually. These usually start with a cold contact on social media, or even somebody sending you a text message pretending to have sent a message to the wrong number. There's an industry term for this now called pig butchering, which I think is, kind of gross, but the
I know
idea
I hate that
is
term.
yeah, the idea is that someone tries to befriend you and earn your trust before getting you to invest in a fake trading platform. So sometimes folks use impersonation, like pretending to be high-profile crypto people, and many times with the pig butchering scams, they pretend to be a love interest. They try to earn your trust as like an online romance or a new friendship. And ultimately, what they're going to do is they're going to funnel you into a website that totally looks like a legitimate trading platform, right? You're going to deposit money. They have a special magic trading system that is going to earn you very high rewards, and you can withdraw at any time, except for it's all fake and you can't withdraw. You'll never get that money back. Um, what these scammers do is put up a really, really nice facade, but all it is you sending them crypto directly into their wallets. And they will keep adding on new excuses for why you need to send them more money before you realize it's a scam. So maybe you see the fake $5,000 worth of Bitcoin in earnings and you want to withdraw. They're going to tell you you need to pay $500 in taxes, right? Or they're going to tell you there's a management fee until you realize it's a scam and you've given them all this money that you're never going to get back. In my experience in the industry, this type of scam tends to result in the largest losses, other than folks having their wallets cleaned out entirely. People genuinely lose their life savings to these types of scams, and it's incredibly heartbreaking because there's really nothing that can be done.
Yeah, there was an interesting episode on Planet Money recently for anyone who listens to that show or is interested in podcasts. It's called Who's Behind These Scammy Text Messages We've All Been Getting? And it's all about that. And an investigative journalist pretended they didn't know it was a pig butchering scam or an investment scam and kind of strung along this person. And some of these operations are extremely calculated. They've got operations around the world, multiple people doing it. So they're working their butts off to scam us. And we have to be as vigilant to avoid it as they are. So how do we avoid this?
I would say again, being aware of things that are too good to be true can be a really, really good starting point. I've sometimes played along with investment scammers online to learn more about how they work. And some of the rewards, they're saying 50% or 100% a day. If it actually were legit and you invested a couple $100, you would have more than the amount of Bitcoin available in the entire world within like 3 weeks or something with the compounding interest. So if you sit and think about it for a second, it's not even possible for it to be legitimate. So being aware of those types of things can be very helpful. Unfortunately, being skeptical and keeping yourself a little bit on guard with a new friendship or online romance can be really important as well. Um, we all want to trust people. I'm very friendly. I love making new friends, talking to different people, but there are malicious people out there that are going to pretend to be someone they're not and really cause an issue for you. The last thing in general is nobody can predict the crypto market with certainty. It's still a very volatile sort of speculative asset. And if somebody's saying they have a sure system to make you a high reward consistently, that's not going to work. And really, if somebody had a magic trading system that could earn them 50% a day, they don't need you. They don't need to be texting random strangers or putting out messages to random people on the internet. They would just make the money and not deal with everybody else.
Yeah, if you get a text that's like, "Hey, do you remember me? We were in that cooking class or whatever," and they because you posted on social media that you like cooking, something like that. If someone come, why is somebody who you met 5 years ago suddenly coming and like, "Hey, why don't I try to help make you money?" Like it's ridiculous, but they're so clever that it's easy to fall for it. Yeah, we got to remain vigilant. Okay, let's talk about blackmail scams. These are heartbreaking.
Yeah, these ones are really interesting. So these start with you getting an email that basically says your computer, your online accounts have all been hacked. And this person has some sophisticated malware and sophisticated hacking techniques. They've taken over everything. And basically, they say, I have some embarrassing info on you, or a video, or something else that you generally wouldn't want out in the public sphere. And they demand that you pay them in Bitcoin so they don't leak it and they'll just go away and leave you alone. What I find really interesting about these from a technical perspective is they'll often use tricks like the email from trick. So they will spoof it so that it looks like it came from your own email. Like if they're sending it to, x@gmail.com, it'll say from x@gmail.com. But this is just a trick. Anybody can send an email and claim it comes from anybody else. They will also sometimes include passwords associated with your email from previous data breaches. So a lot of people do reuse passwords that are a bit weak. And so you might think, wow, they actually have my password to all my accounts. And really, it's just a password that was leaked and you haven't changed in the last 10 years. Um, Again, if you send somebody Bitcoin, there's no way to reverse it. So you should be aware of these types of threats and just let it go. They don't actually have anything on you.
Yeah, and this, I mean, it's scary because they, oops, sorry, do you hear that? That's my dog. Can you hear it on here?
A little bit.
She's very concerned about blackmail scams, I believe. So, what are some ways to avoid these? Like sometimes people will actually have a photo or something that they found. What do you have any idea of what we should do? I mean, when this does happen, I've got some thoughts, but I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I think, this is sometimes easier said than done, especially because like all human beings have a private life that, people outside of your house don't see. But I like to think realistically about the threats. Like, if they had full access to my system and all of my accounts, they're probably just going to clean out my bank account or my crypto wallet and not like threaten me with an embarrassing video and leak it to my family and friends. There's just no reason for that. There's easier targets, there's easier ways for them to get money than to threaten you. The only reason they're threatening you is because they actually have nothing other than the ability to generate a threatening email. Too, I mean, you could also just not care. I mean, that's easier said than done too, but I feel like, if people saw like a video of me just sitting around the house, none of my friends and family are gonna hate me for it. So, you know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good piece, a thing to think of, not to care. And also, like, if somebody is threatening you, you can always go to law enforcement. If someone is saying that they have, nude pics of you or something like that, you can always go and report that. And I think something to remember is there have been stories of people that have taken their lives because they're so scared of things, pictures of them getting out or the bullying with it. I think the thing to remember is it's not worth your life. No amount of money is worth your life. And the people who love you are going to love you anyways. And this, at this point, there's so many pictures out there of people naked or doing whatever. Like, it's I guess, a drop in the bucket at this point. So if this is happening to you and it's legit, like I would say, go look for help, go to law enforcement, and also don't feel like you're being singled out and that there's like no other options for you, because this is something that happens to a lot of people, and it's not okay, it's not fair, but it does happen. And there's support, I guess, for things like that. But obviously the best way to mitigate it is to, avoid these things in the first place. Okay. Sorry, Josh, did you have one more thing on that?
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, I mean, in most cases, these template sort of threatening emails, they genuinely have nothing, right? They haven't compromised your system. It's all a facade. If you do have a legitimate concern about blackmail, like something like illicit pictures, or adults, it happens. That's actually a criminal matter, right? Most places criminalize revenge porn, blackmail type of stuff. So if you actually have a legitimate concern, you should go to law enforcement and protect yourself. And if you give them money, they're never going to leave you alone, right? You're not actually going to stop any threats. It actually makes it more enticing to an attacker if they know that you will comply. They're going to continue to threaten you down the line, whether or not it's legitimate, because they know they've gotten something out of you. So,
Yeah,
take care of yourself first and just never give them any money.
that's a good point. If you give them money once, this is never going to stop. That's not the solution, is not to pay. All right, recovery scams.
That is a perfect segue into recovery scams. So, as I said, one of the really unfortunate things about being the victim of a scam, which can happen to anybody, is you will often get targeted twice. Especially with the investment scams, where there's oftentimes life-changing amounts of money involved. People are desperate to get that money back. And there is a whole industry of scammers that do these fake recoveries. This is basically people pretending to be some legitimate firm that works with law enforcement, or some, white hat hacker that can get your money back using some magical technical means, or by seizing assets or something like that. Um, they'll ask for upfront fees, they'll ask for personal information, they'll ask for things like access to exchange accounts or wallet seed phrases. But in reality, all of this is just going to allow them to clean you out even further. It's really, really important to remember in crypto, unfortunately, once you send money to somebody, there is no way to reverse that transaction, right? Open blockchains work that way for a reason. That's a great power. That's an interesting security feature that also has the negative effect of, if you lose money to a scam, you're not getting it back. There's no hacks, there's no magic. There's really no case most of the time, even from a legal perspective, unless it's an extremely high amount of money. And so you should not believe people telling you they can recover your crypto, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah. So I guess that's the big thing. Don't believe scams like this. What are some of the other things we can do, Josh?
yeah, I mean, ignore unsolicited offers for help. If you see comments under a social media post that you made about how can I get help with crypto recovery, there are actually bot farms out there that will instantly post these recovery scams at the mention of certain keywords like recovery, hack, scam. I see them all the time on social media. If you are scammed with an investment scam or something, there's very, very, very low likelihood you'll ever get that money back, even from law enforcement, but you should report that to the authorities, right? These are often organized crime that, even if they stole a little bit from you, they've stolen a lot from many different people. And so by reporting it, you can help the legitimate authorities track these types of scams, sometimes find the people involved, bring them to justice. It's very nebulous in the crypto space, unfortunately. There often isn't justice, there often isn't recourse. Um, but the only legitimate people that might even have a 1% chance of helping you is the police, basically. And the final thing is just awareness of how these scams work and also how crypto works in the first place. Like we've said several times, crypto transactions are not reversible. That's by design. Just being aware of that fact means anybody claiming they have a way around that is showing you a red flag. It's not real.
Yeah, I think the education piece is so extremely important. If you don't know the tactics, if you don't know what's happening, how it's happening, it's a lot easier to be scammed. Once you've heard it, seen it, and you start to build this awareness in your head, and you've got these tools kind of locked in there. So when you see that message from whatever spam scam or whoever it is sending this to you, you're easier able to filter these things out. And having that knowledge, I think, is so important, which is obviously why you wrote the book, Josh, and why we're doing this live stream.
Yeah, and as we kind of go from the phishing sort of scam tactics into some of the technical threats here as well. Just want to reiterate a lot of this is education and pattern matching. You don't all have to become security nerds like me to recognize these scams. These are constantly evolving. The tactics are constantly changing. The specific messages, the specific impersonation, the specific website that they are using. What you really need to get out of something like this is to build your pattern recognition muscles. See these types of threats, urgency rewards, see how they operate, and then one scam website starts to look just like the next one because the attackers can generate an unlimited number of fake profiles, fake personas, fake websites, mass email campaigns, anything that they're using. If you recognize the pattern and you recognize the tactics, you're ready for the next one. So
Mm-hmm.
keep yourself educated. It doesn't have to be super in depth, but every bit that you learn will help you be more prepared for the next wave.
Yeah, I also want to touch on something you just said, Josh. These people are making money off of this because they have created this large system. It's generally not one person sitting at home and is like, oh, I think I'll scam so and so. Often it's a company that has been created to scam people. There's systems in place. You go sent from one person to the next, to the next. You don't even know this is happening. But they have these processes, these systems in place, and they're smart about it. And once a lot of people start figuring out, they find a new avenue because this is basically a business for them. I always wonder, if you're going to spend so much time and effort doing this, why don't you just do something good? But I guess not everyone sees the world that way, but we have to really be vigilant because these are larger operations often coming after us. So what does malware look like, Josh? How does that work?
This is some of the really interesting attacks that I've seen in the space, right? There's sort of the phishing side, and then there are also technical ways to compromise people. There's several different classes of malware threats that have been seen in the space. Um, there is malicious software that can target seed phrases or private keys directly on your device. Um, there are also malware threats that can do things like swap out your crypto addresses. So anybody that's been in the space and sent a Bitcoin transaction knows a Bitcoin address is a long random string of data. And it's not easy to type, it's not easy to remember. And so most people are going to do one of two things. They're going to scan a QR code using their mobile device, or if they're on a PC, they're going to take the recipient address, copy it, and then paste it in their wallet before they send. So if malware finds its way onto your system, that malicious code can detect the pattern of a Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin address. And when you copy it, replace that with an attacker address. So when you paste it into your wallet and you send that transaction off, if you haven't double checked the address, you're actually sending your transaction to the scammer. instead of your intended recipient.
All right. So what do we do about it?
So these ones can be a little bit complicated, right? Malware has found its way even into fairly legitimate channels through some, sophisticated supply chain attacks. But in general, only use official wallet apps. Look for things like wallet apps that have millions of downloads, thousands of reviews, right? Things like if you're trying to download Coinbase Wallet and you see that it has 500 downloads, that should be a red flag to you that that's a malicious app. That's not a perfect system for recognizing this, right? But these are just some things that you can think about. Um, Unfortunately, as much as we all want to give new developers a chance and help with new software, it's generally a better bet to try to use software that's been well vetted by the crypto community, right? That has a reputation, especially open source can be really good. Keep your software up to date. Run your antivirus regularly. Never save your keys, crypto keys, in any plain text form. That includes things like screenshots and pictures of your written down seed phrase. There actually is a well-known attack called SparkCat where fake mobile apps would scan through the user's photo galleries and look for seed phrase patterns and then use that to swipe the keys. It's remarkably easy to write code to do that. I've actually written a demo of this for Chain Toots. Now, it's not anywhere near as sophisticated as the real thing, but it does that basic attack, right? Um, in general, too, stay away from game cheats, like pirating stuff. I mean, I know like we all love free versus having to pay for something, but those are really, really easy avenues for these types of malware attacks to sneak in. One example I had in the book is a person that regularly pirated textbooks for college, which, I think we've all done, given the price of textbooks, had his Ether address swapped out for an attackers and lost some money that way. So beware.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about a little bit more, another more advanced situation. If you use multiple blockchains and you're swapping across chains. All right, Josh, let's hear it.
Yeah, so this one is from the most interesting threat in the crypto space, which is not external hackers trying to get stuff out of you, it's you making a mistake. Yes, unfortunately, we are a threat to our own crypto assets because, as we've talked about, mistakes are irreversible. One of the interesting key loss scenarios that has happened is you sending crypto to an address from the wrong blockchain. A lot of forks exist in the open blockchain ecosystem. A lot of chains use compatible address formats, and that can lead to problems. So, for example, Bitcoin Cash at a base level uses the same address format as Bitcoin. Now, there are some diverging formats as the history of both of those ecosystems have evolved. But you could copy a Bitcoin Cash address that a Bitcoin wallet will accept for generating a transaction. But when you send it, you're not going to see the funds show up in that receiving wallet because it's going to be looking through the wrong path, the wrong derivation path in the wallet. This starts to get a little technical, so we won't go into that. But in general, if you send to the wrong address, in most cases, you've accidentally lost the coins forever. There are some edge cases where, with these multi coin wallets, you could try to find the right private key and sweep it back into your wallet. But that's way beyond the scope of what we're doing today. Um,
Yeah, well, and one of the things too that we can do to help others, I think, is if we're sending to somebody else, like if you give your address to someone to send money to, it's helpful if they take another look. I've definitely had people send me addresses before, and then when I've taken a second look, I'm like, this isn't a Bitcoin address. This is like for BNB, or this is actually BCH, whatever it is. So it's also helpful if you know what Josh is talking about for these address swaps. You should also be helping others to recognize this if we're being sent an address, just double checking it. I think that that's one of the good things about Bitcoin is that we feel like a community often, and same thing with Ethereum. And if we are this community, let's help each other to make sure that these things are avoidable when possible, and just mention it to people as well.
Yeah, mitigation for this one really comes down to just double, triple checking your address and currency. Make sure that you copy the address from the right wallet. Make sure that you've double checked that the address is correct, which helps with the malware attacks and things. And just take that extra second before you send the transaction off. Once it's sent, it's forever on the blockchain. Um, but you can always take the extra 2 minutes to validate it. It doesn't really take much out of your day, especially for high value transactions.
I had somebody, I was doing a Bitcoin exchange, or I was sending Bitcoin. This is a little while ago. And the person next to me, I asked them to read the address out loud. And they were like, this is so long because it keeps going and going and going. And there's obviously the option to just read the first five or six, the last five or six in the middle as well. But if you go through, I mean, there's a reason why they're so long, but there's also a reason why people are like, oh, okay, I'm not going to check, or we get lazy, something like that. Or we see BC1, we're like, okay, this is fine, and let it go from there. So I think the fact that it does take extra work is something that if you're going to be in crypto, just kind of accept that as part of the process. It's something, I think it's fun. Once you really get the hang of it, you're like, oh, I'm a pro at this. But just take your time. And I think that's a big piece of it is just taking your time, checking, and not doing it. I mean, we started by talking about urgency and how problematic that is. And I think it's the same thing even when it's not necessarily a scammer. If you're doing something urgently, if you quickly need to send funds, that is another good way to make a mistake. Okay, so do you want to sum up what we talked about, Josh?
Yeah, so what we talked about today, without going through each individual example, is I think of three classes of threats to your crypto assets, right? There's phishing and scam related threats, which are social engineering, someone trying to trick you into giving up your crypto in some way. There's technical threats like malware, and then there's mistakes that you make, which is things like cross-chain address swapping or something we didn't even cover, which is as simple as losing your backup for your keys when you need it. So all of this is about understanding your own personal threat model. What is important to you? What is most likely to target you for your life and the way that you use crypto? And then building education and building security practices around that.
I like that idea, Josh, of the personal threat model. How important to be aware of what they are, in particular for you as an individual, because we all have different threats, different levels of technical understanding, and what could be my Achilles heel might not be the same as yours, Josh, because we're different people. And so we have different weaknesses and make different types of mistakes.
Yeah, that's something I really like to hit home when people ask me about crypto security. I think especially in this space, where a lot of us are cryptography and security geeks and folks that are wanting to maybe look outside the traditional banking system for holding our wealth. And I mean, it's kind of like fun to be a little paranoid and think about all the things that can happen. And there are some legitimately wild attacks that have happened to people in crypto because there is so much wealth and that irreversible nature. But that said, I do think it's important to think realistically about what the threats are for you. Because if you make your security plan more complex than you can handle because you're too worried about threats that are unrealistic, you can also lose your coins by making a mistake. That's just as big a threat in crypto as the external threats. And so I think it's important to continually educate yourself, continually reevaluate your threat model and your plans as you navigate your journey, because what's right for you today might not be right for you in 5 or 10 years. And keep the education flowing. It never hurts to learn more and to think about these things. Um, but I say all of that because it also doesn't have to be too scary, right? You don't necessarily have to spend all your time being scared of all these wild attacks. Just thinking realistically about some of the approaches that attackers take and what you can do to mitigate them that works for you.
Yeah, there's a fine line between being paranoid about it and being prepared. So, making sure you're doing the things, you're learning what you need to know so that you're not making mistakes or falling for social engineering or having your crypto lost because of malware. It's obviously extremely important, but if it consumes you, then you've taken the fun out of it, and it's no longer a technology that is advancing, the world and you within it. It becomes something that's hindering your life, and so it really is a balancing act, I think. And one of the things I really like about your book, Josh, is you're talking about common threats. So these everything in this book you've seen, right, Josh? Either you've experienced, someone's tried to, or someone who has in some way. Is that right?
Yeah, all of the case studies and examples in the book are real things that I've encountered over um, my 6.5 years as a content creator and many more years in the space. I've collected examples. I have some screenshots and images in the book, detailed case studies. Uh, they're out there, right? And it's something new every day that folks are kind enough to reach out to me about for help or share in order to help others.
So, I'm going to plug it for you. This book is good. If you're trying to avoid common threats, this is a good book for you to find. And like Josh said at the beginning, it is available for free. It's also available to purchase because, like we've talked about, education is such an important thing to make sure that you and others are staying safe. And if you know somebody, maybe you're like, I already know about these threats, but you know people who need to see this video or who should get this book. I think it's a good way to make the space safer in general. Even if you're not being scammed, if the person next to you is being scammed or is falling for these common threats, it could impact them greatly, and that impacts the community as a whole. The more times we see in the news these negative things happening, the worse it is for the crypto ecosystem in general.
Yeah, and like I said, um, the book is about giving you the skills, the knowledge, and sort of the pattern recognition to build a plan for yourself. Right. I personally, would write something that I would want to read. I'm rereading it right now to do the audiobook. Um, it's designed to be interesting. It's designed to give you skills that you can design a plan for yourself and not just sort of follow a checklist. I think we in the crypto community, because we love to think about all these kind of interesting threats, sometimes just say, do this, do this, do this. You have to do it. It's the only way. That's not always true. All of these security practices exist for a reason. Understanding the reason will allow you to apply those rules and those guidelines for yourself. As we often say, like some rules are meant to be broken. Um, Regulations are written in blood, right? In crypto, there is no regulation. This is just real things that have happened to real people that we can take forward and mitigate in the future. So if you do choose to pick it up, I genuinely hope you enjoy it. You share it with folks. It's for you. It's to help you learn, help me learn as well as I go along in this security journey. So thanks very much for having me and checking it out.
Thank you so much, Josh. I always appreciate your time. I appreciate that you volunteer your time with C4, and I am excited about this book, and congrats on being an author. I know it's not easy to get through and put this all. And if you have crypto, pay attention to threats, build your personal threat model, like Josh said, and be safe.
Yeah, and I'd like to add at the end here as well, Jess is also a very humble person. She was incredibly instrumental in helping me edit this book and giving me feedback throughout the process. So thank you, Jess, as well, for being a part of
Um,
the journey. It's so
You're
fun.
welcome. I had a blast and I learned some stuff from it as well. And, I told you about this. There's a few things that you explained differently. And this is why, like, it takes a village for people to be educated. I already told Josh this, but one of the ways he explained something in his book changed how we explain something in our CBP, our Bitcoin exam prep course, because Josh, the way you explained it's better than what I'd previously had. So really, we all work together to make the space safer and to have people more educated. So thank you. I appreciate you. I love this book, and I will see you in our next committee call. And thank you all for joining, and see you next time.
Take care.